Today I'm talking to one of my most reliable contacts in the industry, as well as a good friend, Glodina Lostanlen. Glodina, hello, thank you for taking the time out to talk to us. Give us a little bit about your background. I know you started as an engineer.
Hey, hi Dick, nice to talk to you again. Always good to catch up with you. Well, yeah, that seems like it was a long time ago, but it's always been there with me in the sense that in this industry, being able to relate to engineers is very important. And even if we have very business intensive discussions, it's a technology industry before anything else. So I very much value that experience, but I have to admit that I can't contribute as much as I used to, just enough to be dangerous.
Yeah, just keep people honest. Tell us what your current role is within Imagine.
Right. At Imagine, I'm currently the Chief Sales Officer, so essentially responsible for global sales for the world and based in Paris, France.
Yes, I was going to say, you're talking to us from Paris, which is another miracle of the internet. But I guess the more interesting thing is that you can be a C-level executive of a company while working from 5,000 kilometers away from the home office.
Look, I think we heard the fast and hard way to some extent, how to make it work. And what we've discovered, I think when I say we, it's the bigger industry of people who used to travel so much, that actually you can achieve a lot by not traveling as much. However, I think that we rely on our sort of baggage of contacts and relationships, whether it's inside the company or outside with customers. And that ultimately it's important to get back to go and see people again. But definitely the environment we're in has completely changed that view that you have to travel so much in order to achieve the same results. So I think we learned a lot there.
And of course, just at the moment, we should all be in a wild panic about setting up IBC. What sort of an impact is the absence of NAB a few months back and now IBC having on the way that the industry works?
Well, it has forced us to rethink the way we reach out to our customers and our industry colleagues. And I think we've been able to, reinvent the digital marketing part of it, which is, heavily relying on webinars to communicate about our technology. Also, our remote demonstrations, even for hardware products, we had, I think, 60 plus remote demonstrations of the S&P. And, you have to ask yourself, okay, so why are we having those trade show meetings? And I think right now it's mostly to meet people and have those, relationship binding experience than it is to truly uncover new technology, because there are multiple ways and multiple places where you can experience that. I think that's the learning there, in my opinion.
I've sat in on some of the webinars that Imagine has organized, and they've been actually very useful, very interesting, and that could be the way ahead, because Imagine has always use the big trade shows as an opportunity to exchange experiences and exchange knowledge. You've had stage presentations on your booth. It's keeping that level of sharing up, I think, is going to be the challenge.
That's right. And, I have to say, to some extent, referring to travel and trade show, when you look at the expense that they incur, the good news is that we're able to, on one hand, save a little bit and then spend differently. And I think, even in the sort of the media and the media industry that helps us, propagate that message, it might be good news. It might be that we can do more things than we used to, as opposed to those big events, setting up a booth and sending equipment and people, which might not be the best return.
Yeah, yes, interesting times. So when you're talking to your customers now remotely, what are they saying? Where is the broadcast industry today? Do we even talk about the broadcast industry?
I think we still talk about the broadcast industry, but it's fair to say that it has become it has had a broader meaning, right? So I think what they're discovering is that things they thought they couldn't do, that wouldn't be acceptable, are now okay, and they can do it. And mostly overall, the experience has been good. So what I'm talking about is for themselves being able to operate, master control room from distance with minimum people on site, being able to run things in disaster recovery mode /cloud not as perfect as they might have in the first place. I think everybody's learning to say that that might be acceptable. But it also comes with another challenge that they have to face, and it's broadcast and it's content industry is, okay, how do we get our revenues still coming in when it's advertising, when it's releasing new content? I think that's where the disruption is coming, and has been coming before COVID, I would say. But that's accelerated by the fact that people now are essentially consuming everything on demand, whether it's broadcast content generated in the first place, or offline content that was always meant to be offline.
Yeah, interesting. The big thing we talked about over the last 5 years or so is the shift to IP. Now that we have ST2110, do we stop talking about this? Can we just forget about that now?
No. No, I don't think we should forget about it. The first of all, it's been the demonstration that we can, as an industry, if we work together and spend a little bit more work on the interoperability and the evangelization, that we can achieve faster results. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that transition, although it's not over, it's still in progress at various stages around the world. It's on the good track. It's not a question of whether or not you do it. It's at some point you will, and the question is, when is the right time, right? But the recipes are there. The standards are there. There's still work to be done on the data side, and there's always more enhancement to the standard. But I think what we've done is give it a real good push to say, let's not fight, and let's just keep moving and work together collaboratively, not just the industry partners, but the customers as well. And what we've learned, in my opinion, from that whole experience of interoperability is to say, well, that's the way to go. Let's not work sequentially, but let's try working in parallel. And, standards being defined, testing happening, developments happening, customers trying out first. And it might be rocky sometimes, right? It's probably not perfect, but it's been pretty good. And, frankly, if I'd imagine, I look at our sort of flagship product there, the S&P, in half a year, this year, we doubled what we did last year. So there is demand. Now, it's not all 100% IP. It's hybrid, right? You have their SDI, you have IP, and that's the world we're in, and it's fine. SDI is still okay, works for the use cases that people need, and IP, where possible, also allows a different approach to building a new infrastructure and new facilities. And, as we talk about remote production and, doing things remotely, I think it's clear to say that the IP infrastructure overall in most Western countries is going to be the main pipe, right? So we better get used to it, because that's going to be the main thing we rely on.
You said there that the real reason for moving to IP is to enable new sorts of architectures. So in future, virtually everything we do will be virtualized. It'll come in the form of microservices. Does that change the way that companies like Imagine sell systems and functionality? And does it change the way that people buy it?
So yes, we are going to change the way we sell our solutions, whether they're hardware or software. The virtualization is specific to existing software solutions that can be turned and virtualized, and it's almost irrelevant in the way you sell them. But it has put on the table a different way to look at how we transact business between ourselves and our customers. And what we found is that historically, the broadcast manufacturers, vendors, right, have been kind of helping their customers by, developing the technology, selling it, and then getting a spike return, not a continuous flow. And I think we're changing this. And it's not so much technology as business needs. We, as an industry, right, we have to be self-sufficient, and we have to make sure that the cash flow is in the right sequence, right? And so R&D, for example, is a very predictable spend, right, for us in the next 2 years. We know how much we spend this year and next year. You don't switch that on and off like this, right? And matching it with a reliable, predictable revenue flow from our solutions is definitely something that we are transforming ourselves. And first, obviously, the virtual solutions. Any advertising solutions that we have now can be run in the cloud, can be on a consumption basis, even up to the point that we also offer managed services on those. And then when you go further down the line of play out and networking, the trend is there too. There's no question. But I think it's less a technology problem than it is a true business kind of moment where we have to decide, okay, what do we need to do to be sustainable as an industry?
Yeah. So it is. It's a business transformation, and will every business be able to approach it that way? I mean, it is a shift from having big chunks of money coming in to having long-term streams of income.
Yeah. Well, the once you're on the long-term stream and it's and it's predictable, you're on the good side. The problem is moving from one place to the other. It's the intermediate. So I think we have to look at this as the industry ecosystem with our customers, our system integrators, all the partners, and sort of decide for all of us, our sakes, right? Yes. That it might be good to just help each other there. And so this is where I'm saying that we have different discussions with our customers. We also have a lot of pressure with their, advertising revenue declines this year, for example, right? We understand their pressure, but they need us also for mission critical type of solutions, right? Infrastructure or software. And so I think it's in their interest also to look at this a little bit differently than they used to. And so we're going through this, and you're right, maybe not everybody can make it that easily. And I just think that it starts with showing the path of, this is how to interact with customers and not being dictated, how you should be doing. Because ultimately it's not going to help if you don't change that.
You've already mentioned the C word, so I feel comfortable in bringing it up. Is the cloud the inevitable end game to this? Is that where we're all heading? And what does that imply for the skills that are within the broadcast engineering team?
Well, so I think that, it's undeniable that a lot of what we have been doing for the last, 10 years practically is moving into a cloud operation mode. But what remains is that sort of operator user experience, that it becomes irrelevant whether underneath it's run in the cloud or in the infrastructure, as long as the technology requirements are met, obviously, right? So I think that the implications are that we have to focus more on that operator experience and just continue to sort of, stick to our core, which is that broadcast quality, the live, what does live mean, right? And the brands, how do we make the brand stand out more? So these are core broadcast requirements, but with that also comes additional skills. So I don't think it's D skills, I think it's upskill or adds new skills, which is how do you handle not just the cloud technology, that's not the most difficult, but the security that goes with it, right? That I think is the number one sort of hurdle or challenge that we have to overcome. That is clear. Security, geographically, everything now is obviously available. Rights management. These are the things that I think we need to learn more about. So yes, your broadcast engineer from 20 years ago probably now knows more about IP and cloud, but I think there's another set of skills that need to be learned around security. To me, that's the most important one.
And if we were going to IBC, what would we be talking about? What's the next big thing? Is AI going to have an impact? You know,
so AI remains a big thing in all industries because it disrupts the way data is manipulated and what we do with data and what kind of choices we offer. So I think that remains an important factor into how the industry is being transformed on the content side primarily. But I think, another big trend, the next big thing is, as an industry, is when you look at broadcasters becoming streamers, right? So the broadcasting and streaming differentiation no longer exists the minute you have big brands offering direct-to-consumer services. And in doing so, they don't necessarily give up everything else they had before. They're just making it available in a new way. But it also gives them that direct interaction with the viewer. So I think that's the next big thing is, if you combine that AI with the fact that there's a direct-to-consumer strategy being followed, then you add it up and you have to ask yourself, okay, who are going to be the big players remaining? Who controls the power? So that's ecosystem dynamics that are changing, I think.
Glodina, it's always a delight to talk to you. You're always thought-provoking and boost my knowledge, at least. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Well, thank you, Dick. Always a pleasure talking to you.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks.